The vampire king bit me by mistake at the masquerade. Now he can't stop searching for me. The invitation arrived on black parchment with gold lettering. You are cordially invited to the midnight masquerade at Thornwood Manor. I traced my fingers over the elegant script, my heart racing. Clara had been begging me to attend this exclusive Halloween event for weeks, and somehow she'd secured 2 tickets. The manor was legendary in our town, a Gothic estate perched on the hillside, owned by the reclusive Ashford family who only appeared once a year for this very occasion. "Isabel, you're wearing the red dress, right?" Clara's voice crackled through my phone as I held the invitation. "I don't know if I should go," I hesitated, staring at my reflection. My dark hair fell in waves past my shoulders and my green eyes looked uncertain. "Are you kidding? This is the social event of the year. Besides, it's a masquerade. No one will even know it's you." That's exactly what convinced me. The night of the masquerade, Thornwood Manor blazed with candlelight. Gargoyles perched on the corners of the Gothic architecture, their stone eyes seeming to follow our car as we approached. The autumn air was crisp, carrying the scent of dying leaves and something else, something sweet and metallic I couldn't quite place. I adjusted my crimson mask, which covered the upper half of my face with delicate lace and tiny rubies. My red silk dress hugged my curves before flowing to the floor, making me feel like someone else entirely. Someone bold, someone mysterious. "This is incredible," Clara whispered beside me, her blue butterfly mask glittering under the chandelier light as we entered the grand ballroom. She wasn't wrong. The ballroom was a masterpiece of old-world elegance, vaulted ceilings painted with celestial scenes, marble floors that reflected the golden glow of 1,000 candles, and guests dressed in elaborate costumes that ranged from Victorian elegance to dark fantasy. A string quartet played a haunting melody as masked figures danced and swirled across the floor. "I'm getting champagne," Clara announced, disappearing into the crowd before I could protest. I stood alone, suddenly feeling exposed despite my mask. I drifted toward the edge of the ballroom, admiring the portraits of the Ashford family that lined the walls. They all shared similar features: sharp cheekbones, aristocratic noses, and strangely pale skin. "Beautiful, aren't they?" The voice was velvet and darkness combined, sending an involuntary shiver down my spine. I turned to find a man standing beside me, and my breath caught in my throat. He was tall, dressed entirely in black, a tailored suit that looked like it cost more than my car. His mask was simple black leather that concealed his identity, but it couldn't hide the sharp line of his jaw or the pale blonde hair that fell just past his collar, catching the candlelight like spun gold. But it was his eyes that held me captive, pale blue, almost silver, with an intensity that made me feel like he could see straight through my mask and into my soul. "The portraits," he clarified, a hint of amusement in his tone. "You were staring." "Oh yes," I managed, cursing myself for sounding breathless. "Your family." Something flickered across his face. In a manner of speaking, I'm Lucian. "Isabel," I replied before I could think better of giving my real name. "Isabel," he repeated, and the way he said my name made it sound like a prayer. "Would you care to dance?" I should have said no, should have excused myself and found Clara, but something about him pulled me in like gravity, like I had no choice but to orbit around him. His hand was cool when it took mine, leading me to the dance floor. The moment we began to move, the rest of the ballroom faded away. He danced like he'd been doing it for centuries, guiding me effortlessly through the steps. "You're not like the others here," Lucian murmured, his eyes never leaving mine. "How would you know? Everyone's wearing masks." "Masks only hide faces, not essence. You have a light about you. It's intoxicating." The way he said that last word made heat pool in my stomach. We danced through 3 songs, and with each passing moment I felt myself falling under his spell. His touch, his scent, sandalwood and something wild, his presence consumed me entirely. "Would you like some air?" he asked as the quartet took a break. I nodded, letting him lead me through French doors onto a moonlit terrace. The garden beyond was beautiful and eerie, with marble statues and dark roses that seemed to bloom even in late October. "This place is like something from a dream," I said, leaning against the stone balustrade. "Or a nightmare," Lucien replied, standing close enough that I could feel the cold radiating from him. "Tell me, Isabelle, do you believe in monsters?" I laughed nervously, like Halloween monsters, ghosts and vampires. "Exactly like that." There was something in his tone that made me turn to face him. His expression was serious, almost pained. "It's just stories," I said softly, "aren't they?" He stepped closer, close enough that I could see my reflection in his pale eyes. "What if I told you that some stories are warnings, that some monsters walk among us, hidden behind masks far more elaborate than the ones worn tonight?" My heart was racing, though whether from fear or excitement I couldn't tell. "Then I'd say they're doing a good job hiding." "Not good enough," he whispered, his hand coming up to cup my face. His thumb traced my cheekbone just below my mask. "Not from you." He leaned in and I tilted my face up, expecting a kiss. But at the last moment I shifted and his lips missed mine, his face ending up against my neck instead. Everything happened so fast. I felt a sharp, searing pain in my throat. Lucien jerked back with a gasp, his hand covering his mouth, his eyes wide with horror. In the moonlight I saw it clearly, blood on his lips. My blood. "No," he breathed, staring at me like I was both his salvation and his doom. "No, this can't, I didn't mean." I pressed my hand to my neck, feeling the warm trickle of blood. 2 small puncture wounds. My mind couldn't process what had happened, couldn't reconcile the evidence with reality. "What did you do?" I whispered. Pain flashed across his face, followed by something darker. Hunger. He took a step toward me and I saw his teeth, elongated canines that definitely hadn't been there before. "Isabelle, I need you to listen very carefully," he said, his voice strained. "You need to leave now, don't come back here. Forget you ever met me." You bit me, you're actually..." "Go," the word came out as a command, and something in his tone broke whatever spell had been holding me there. I ran through the ballroom, ignoring Clara's confused calls. I ran to our car, my hand still pressed to my neck. I ran from the impossible truth that vampires were real, and I had just been bitten by one. What I didn't know then was that vampire bites create a bond, an unbreakable connection that would haunt Lucien every moment until he found me again. And he would find me, he had no choice. Because I wasn't just anyone. According to the ancient laws of his kind, I was now his soulbound, the one human whose blood sang to him above all others. The one human who could either save him or destroy everything he'd built over 5 centuries. 3 days had passed since the masquerade, and I was beginning to think I'd hallucinated the entire thing. Maybe someone had spiked the champagne. Maybe I'd had some kind of psychotic break brought on by too many late-night vampire romance novels. Except for the marks on my neck. They were small, barely visible, but they were there. 2 tiny dots that had scabbed over and now looked like nothing more than an insect bite. I'd told Clara I'd scratched myself on an earring. She'd believed me, probably because the alternative was insane. I tried to go back to normal, teaching my 2nd grade class, grading papers, pretending my world hadn't tilted on its axis. But every night I dreamed of him, of Lucien, of pale blonde hair and silver eyes and a voice that wrapped around my soul like silk. On the fourth night, things changed. I was grading homework at my kitchen table when the lights flickered, once, twice, then went out completely. "Great," I muttered, reaching for my phone's flashlight. That's when I felt it, that same presence from the masquerade. The air pressure changed, growing heavier, and the temperature dropped so suddenly I could see my breath. "Isabelle." I spun around, my phone clattering to the floor. Lucien stood in my living room, looking exactly as he had that night, minus the mask. In the dim light from the street lamps outside, his blonde hair seemed to glow, and his pale eyes were fixed on me with an intensity that made my knees weak. "How did you get in here?" I demanded, grabbing a knife from the kitchen counter. "How do you know where I live?" "I've been trying to stay away," he said, his voice rough, pained. "For 3 days I've fought it, but the bond, I can feel you, Isabelle, every heartbeat, every breath. I know when you're sleeping, when you're afraid, when you're thinking of me." The knife trembled in my hand. "That's not possible." "Isn't it?" He took a step closer, and I noticed the dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders. "You feel it too, don't lie. You've been dreaming of me." I had, every single night, vivid dreams that left me gasping awake with his name on my lips. "What did you do to me?" I whispered. Lucien ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so human it momentarily made me forget what he was. "I bit you. Not intentionally, I swear to you. I thought I had complete control. I haven't fed on a human in over a century. But when I went to kiss you and you moved, instinct took over." "Fed on," I couldn't finish the sentence. "You're really a vampire." "I'm the vampire king," he corrected quietly. "Lucien Ashford, first of my line, 543 years old, and you, Isabelle Chen, are my soulbound." I laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. "You're what?" "It happens once in a vampire's existence if they're fortunate, or unfortunate depending on your perspective." He moved to my couch and sat down heavily, as if carrying a great weight. "When we taste the blood of our perfect match, it creates an unbreakable bond. I'm drawn to you now always. I can sense you anywhere in the world, and the longer I'm apart from you." "What?" His eyes met mine, and I saw genuine fear there. "The bloodlust grows. You're all I can think about, all I can smell, taste, want. If I stay away too long, I'll lose control entirely. I could hurt innocent people trying to satisfy a craving that only you can fill." The knife slipped from my fingers, clattering onto the counter. "So what? I'm just supposed to let you feed on me. I'm your personal blood bag now." Pain flashed across his face. "No, God, no, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to tell you I'm leaving. I have properties all over the world. I'll go somewhere far away, somewhere I can lock myself up where I can't hurt anyone." "For how long?" "Forever, if necessary." We stared at each other across my small living room, the weight of impossibility hanging between us. "There has to be another way," I said finally. "There is," his voice was barely audible. "You could accept the bond. Let me feed from you just small amounts. It would keep the craving satisfied, keep me in control." "And what do I get out of this arrangement, besides being a vampire's juice box?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "My blood is in your system now. You'll age more slowly, heal faster, be stronger. You'll live for centuries if you choose, and," he hesitated, "I would protect you, cherish you. My soulbound is the most precious thing in existence to me. I would burn the world down before I let anything harm you." It should have sounded creepy. Instead, it sent a thrill through me that I absolutely did not want to examine. "I need to think," I said. "Of course," he stood up, moving toward my window with inhuman grace. "But Isabelle, please decide quickly. I can feel my control slipping every hour. I don't want to, his voice broke. I don't want to become the monster I've spent centuries fighting against. Then he was gone, leaving only a whisper of cold air and the scent of sandalwood. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I did what any rational person would do when confronted with the supernatural. I researched. The internet was useless, full of teenage vampire romance and conspiracy theories, but I remembered my grandmother's old books, packed away in my closet. She'd been obsessed with folklore and mythology, much to my parents' embarrassment. At 3 a.m., I found what I was looking for in a leather-bound journal she'd kept. Notes about vampires, written in her spidery handwriting. The ancient ones are not like the movies portray. They are bound by strict laws, the most sacred being the soul-bound bond. Once created, it cannot be broken except by death. The vampire will be drawn to their soul-bound inexorably. But beware, the bond goes both ways. The human will crave the vampire's presence just as strongly, will find no satisfaction in ordinary life. It is a curse and a blessing, this eternal connection. My hands shook as I read. Was that why I couldn't stop thinking about him? Why my dreams were haunted by silver eyes and pale blonde hair? A crash from outside made me jump. I ran to the window to see a figure in my backyard, Lucian on his knees, his hands clutching his head. I was outside before I could think twice, barefoot on the cold grass. Lucian. He looked up at me and I gasped. His eyes were no longer silver but pure black, and his face was twisted in agony. Run, he gritted out. Please, Isabel, run. I can't hold it back. But I didn't run. Against all logic and self-preservation, I knelt beside him, placing my hand on his cold cheek. Then don't hold it back, I whispered. His eyes widened, a flash of silver returning. You don't know what you're offering. I read about the bond, about what happens when you fight it. I pushed my hair aside, exposing my neck. I'm choosing this, I'm choosing you. Isabel, just promise me something. Promise me this is real, that I'm not just a food source to you. He caught my hand, pressing it to his chest. No heartbeat, just as I'd expected. Feel that. No heart has beaten in this chest for over 5 centuries. But when I'm near you, I swear I can feel it trying to start again. You're not just my soul-bound Isabel. You're the first person in 500 years who's made me feel human. I leaned in, and this time, when his lips found my neck, I didn't pull away. The bite was nothing like before. There was a sharp pinch, then warmth spread through my entire body like liquid gold. I gasped, my fingers tangling in his soft blonde hair as he drank. It should have been terrifying, should have been painful, but instead it felt right, complete. When he pulled back, his eyes were silver again, clear and focused. He licked the wound, and I felt it close beneath his tongue, healing almost instantly. Are you all right? He asked softly, studying my face with concern. I nodded, feeling strangely euphoric. That was intimate, he finished. The bond is sealed now fully. Do you feel it? I did. I could sense his emotions like they were my own. Relief, desire, and underneath it all, a fierce protectiveness that took my breath away. What happens now? I asked. Lucian helped me to my feet, steadying me when I swayed. Now I suppose I caught you properly. Take you to dinner, though I won't be eating. Get to know everything about you. Prove that I'm worthy of this incredible gift you've given me. You're asking me to date you, the Vampire King. A real smile crossed his face, transforming him from beautiful to absolutely devastating. I'm asking you to give us a chance. No more secrets, no more running. Just you and me, figuring out what it means that after 500 years of existence, I've finally found the other half of my soul. He brushed a strand of hair from my face with a tenderness that made my heart ache. What do you say, Isabel Chen? Will you let a monster love you? I thought about my quiet, ordinary life, my routine days teaching spelling and arithmetic, my lonely evenings grading papers. Then I looked at this impossible being before me, ancient and powerful, yet vulnerable in a way that spoke to something deep inside me. "I don't see a monster," I said softly. "I see someone who's been alone for a very long time, someone who fought against his nature to protect me, someone whose soul recognized mine across all the impossible odds." I took his cool hand in mine. "Yes, Lucian Ashford, I'll give us a chance." But as we stood there in my moonlit backyard, neither of us knew that accepting the bond had set other things in motion. The vampire world had strict laws about soulbounds, and not everyone would be pleased that their king had bound himself to a human. The real challenges were just beginning. The next 2 weeks were the strangest of my life. By day, I taught my second graders their multiplication tables and read them stories. By night, I entered a world I never knew existed. Lucian was true to his word about courting me properly. He took me to his private library filled with first edition books spanning centuries. He taught me about vampire history, the wars, the treaties, the delicate balance maintained with the human world. He introduced me to his world carefully, gently, always making sure I felt safe. And he fed from me 3 times, each experience more intense than the last. I was beginning to crave it as much as he did, the intimate connection when his bite linked us together. But tonight, everything would change. "There's something I need to tell you," Lucian said as we sat in his study at Thornwood Manor. A fire crackled in the marble fireplace, and his blonde hair gleamed in the firelight as he paced. "My council has learned about you, about our bond." I set down my wine glass, and they're not happy. "It's complicated." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd learned meant he was worried. "Vampire law states that a soulbound must be protected at all costs. But there's another law, an older one, that says a human soulbound must make a choice within 1 month of the bond being sealed." "What choice?" He turned to face me, his silver eyes troubled. "To become a vampire or to have the bond severed." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Severed? You said it couldn't be broken except by death." "There's a ritual," he said quietly. "Ancient magic performed by the council. It would break the bond, erase your memories of me, return you to your normal life. You'd be free." "And you?" Pain flashed across his face. "I would remain bound to you for eternity, able to sense you but never approach you. Loving someone who doesn't remember I exist. It's considered the cruelest punishment in our world, reserved for the worst criminals." I stood up, anger flooding through me. "Then why are they making me choose? Why can't we just continue as we are?" "Because the bond makes you vulnerable." He crossed to me, taking my hands in his cool ones. "My enemies could use you against me, hurt you to control me. The council believes that either you should become one of us, able to defend yourself with vampire powers, or the bond should be broken for your own protection." "That's not fair." "No," he agreed softly. "It's not, but these laws have existed for millennia. Even as king, I can't simply ignore them. The council is coming tomorrow night for your answer." I pulled away from him, moving to the window. Outside, the grounds of Thornwood Manor stretched into darkness, beautiful and isolated. What if I don't want either option? What if I don't want to become a vampire, but I don't want to forget you either? "Then we run," Lucian said from behind me. "I'll abdicate my throne, leave my people, and we'll disappear. But Isabel, they'll hunt us. You'll spend your life running, hiding, never able to have a normal existence." I turned to face him. "And if I become a vampire, what then?" "Then you'd be my queen. You'd rule beside me for eternity. You'd have power, immortality, everything I could give you." He paused. "But you'd have to give up the sun, your family eventually, as you'd watch them age and die. Your humanity, it's not a decision to make lightly. And if I choose to break the bond... The pain in his eyes was answer enough, but he spoke anyway. Then I'll know I loved you enough to set you free. You'll go back to your life, never knowing that somewhere in the world, a monster loves you more than his own existence. Tears strung my eyes. How am I supposed to make this choice? It's my humanity or my heart. I know, he whispered, pulling me into his arms. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I brought this into your life. If I could go back to that masquerade, if I could have just one moment of control. Then we never would have found each other, I finished. And despite everything, I can't bring myself to wish that away. He held me as I cried, and for the first time I felt wetness on my own cheek that wasn't my tears. I looked up to see Lucian crying, actual tears sliding down his perfect face. I didn't know you could cry, I whispered. I haven't been able to in centuries, not until you. He cupped my face in his hands. You've made me feel everything again, Isabel. Joy, fear, hope. Love, real love, not the pale imitation I've experienced before. Whatever you decide tomorrow, know that you've given me the greatest gift. You've reminded me what it means to be alive. I didn't sleep that night. I went home to my small apartment and sat surrounded by the life I'd built. Photos of my family, my parents who would be devastated to lose me. My students' artwork covering my refrigerator. The normalcy I'd always treasured. But it all felt hollow now, like a painting of a life rather than an actual existence. Clara called around midnight. Hey, stranger, you've been MIA lately, new boyfriend. If only she knew. Something like that, I said. Well, bring him to dinner this weekend. I'm dying to meet the guy who's got you so distracted you forgot our Thursday movie night. I closed my eyes. Clara, if you had to choose between a safe, normal life and a dangerous one with someone you love, what would you pick? That's heavy for midnight, she laughed. Then, more seriously, I guess it depends. How much do you love him? Is it the kind of love worth rearranging your whole world for? Yeah, I whispered, it really is. Then that's your answer, Bella. Life's too short for safe, if it means losing the person who makes your soul sing. If only she knew how literally true that was. After we hung up, I pulled out my grandmother's journal again, reading her notes by candlelight. On the last page, I found something I'd missed before. If you're reading this, it means the impossible has happened. You've entered their world. I know because it happened to me too once long ago. I chose humanity, chose to break the bond, and spent every day since wondering if I made the right choice. I can't tell you what to decide, that path is yours alone. But know this, a life without love is death by another name, and immortality means nothing if you're dead inside. My hands shook. My grandmother had been soulbound, had known all along that this world existed. I searched through her things and found it, hidden in the back of an old photo album. A picture of a young woman who looked startlingly like me, standing next to a handsome man with dark hair and eyes that seemed too knowing for the photograph's era. On the back, in her handwriting, Marcus and me 1952, my greatest love, my deepest regret. She'd chosen to break the bond, and she'd regretted it for the rest of her life. The council arrived at Thornwood Manor exactly at midnight. They were terrifying, 6 ancient vampires who made even Lucian look young. They sat in a semicircle in the grand ballroom, their eyes fixed on me with varying degrees of curiosity and disdain. Isabel Chen, the eldest spoke, a woman with white hair and eyes like chips of ice. You have been given a month to decide your fate. What is your choice? Will you join our kind, or shall we perform the severance ritual? I stood before them, Lucian beside me, his hand tightly gripping mine. Before I answer, I said, proud that my voice didn't shake, I have a question. You say you're protecting me by forcing this choice, but what you're really protecting is your king. You don't want him to have a human weakness. A ripple of surprise went through the council. The white-haired woman smiled slightly. Clever, you're correct, of course. A human soulbound is a liability, but our laws exist for good reason. Your laws don't account for love, I interrupted. They don't account for choice, real choice. You're telling me to either transform completely or forget entirely. But there's a third option you're not mentioning. Lucian looked at me sharply. Isabel. Let her speak, another council member said, a man with a scar across his pale face. The bond can't be broken except by death, I said, and transforming me into a vampire doesn't eliminate the vulnerability, it just changes it. So here's my choice. I remain human, but I become part of this world with full knowledge and protection. I learn to defend myself, I accept the risks, and Lucian stops being king. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Abdication, the white-haired woman stood. Lucian is the first of our line, the most powerful. And miserable, I said firmly. I've read the histories. He's ruled for 5 centuries, maintained peace, built this world. Don't you think he's earned the right to choose his own happiness? Lucian's hand tightened on mine. Isabel, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I turned to face him, seeing the hope and fear warring in his silver eyes. I'm not giving up my humanity, Lucian, not because I don't love you. I do more than I thought possible. But I'm choosing to stay human because that's what you fell in love with. That's what makes our bond special. I looked back at the council. I'll age, I'll die eventually, but because of Lucian's blood in my system, I'll have more time than most humans, and will make every moment count. Isn't a short, brilliant love better than an eternity of compromise? The ballroom was silent. Then, slowly, the scarred council member began to laugh. 500 years I've known you, Lucian, and I've never seen you look at anyone the way you're looking at her right now. Perhaps the girl is right. Perhaps you've earned your freedom. There is precedent, another council member said thoughtfully. King Thuron abdicated in the 1600s for his soulbound. The white-haired woman studied me for a long moment. And you would truly be willing to live in our world as a human, knowing you'll age while Lucian remains unchanged, watching yourself grow old while he stays forever young. Every love story ends, I said softly. At least ours will be extraordinary. Another long silence, then the woman nodded. Very well. The council accepts your proposal on 3 conditions. First, you will undergo training in vampire defense. Second, you will bind yourself magically to Thornwood Manor's protections. Third, she looked at Lucian, you must choose your successor within 1 year. Lucian bowed his head, agreed. Just like that, it was over. The council departed, leaving us alone in the massive ballroom. I can't believe you did that, Lucian said, pulling me into his arms. You gave up immortality for me. No, I corrected. I kept my humanity for us, there's a difference. I looked up at him, this beautiful, impossible being who'd chosen me across all of time. I don't want to live forever, Lucian. I want to live fully for whatever time I have, with you. He kissed me then, really kissed me, and it was nothing like the accidental bite at the Masquerade. It was a promise, a beginning, a choice we were both making with open eyes. When we finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I'll make every day count, he promised. Every single day you give me. I know you will, I smiled. Besides, with your blood in my system, we have at least a few centuries, right? That's not too shabby. He laughed, the sound full of genuine joy. A few centuries with you would be worth more than an eternity with anyone else. 5 years later, I sat in Thornwood's garden, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. My students' latest letters sat in my lap, Even though I'd transferred to an online teaching position, I still stayed in touch with many of them. "There you are," Lucian's voice came from behind me. His blonde hair caught the dying light as he settled beside me on the bench. "You missed the council meeting." "How did it go with Marcus?" I asked, leaning into his cool embrace. "Your grandmother's soulbound is adjusting well to being king. Turns out being a vampire for 70 years makes you quite qualified." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "She would have been proud, you know, that you found him, convinced him to take the position." I smiled, thinking of the grandmother I'd never really known. She and Marcus had reconnected in my 3rd year with Lucian, and their love story had gotten a second chance. When Lucian needed to choose a successor, Marcus had been the obvious choice. "Any regrets?" Lucian asked softly, the question he asked me at least once a year. I looked at my hands, noting the fine lines starting to appear that would never touch his skin. In 5 years, I'd aged visibly while he remained unchanged. We'd probably have a few more decades before the difference became stark, before we'd have to make harder choices about my mortality. But right now, in this moment with the sun setting and my soulbound beside me, I had no regrets at all. "Not even one," I said, turning to kiss him. "Best accidental vampire bite ever." He laughed against my lips. "Remind me to be clumsy more often." As the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars appeared, I thought about that masquerade 5 years ago, about a crimson mask and a mistaken bite that had changed everything. I'd chosen the harder path, the uncertain one. I'd chosen to remain human in a vampire's world, to age while my love stayed eternal, to burn bright and brief rather than cold and forever. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because some love stories aren't meant to last forever. Some are meant to burn brilliantly, to be cherished for every precious, fleeting moment. Ours was one of those. And it was perfect. Ready to escape into more magical love stories? Join my Patreon. The link is in the description below. Exclusive and uncensored episodes are available only on Patreon. Check the link in the description.